Do you know what plays a crucial role in modern business operations? If you think it is through application development, automation, and integration, then you are absolutely correct. By optimizing the development, automation, and integrating your applications, you can streamline workflows, reduce costs, improve accuracy, and thus stay competitive in today's dynamic marketplace. By the end of this episode, you will know how SAP supports you to stay competitive. Welcome and thank you for joining. I am Tania from the Global User Groups Organization, and alongside my colleague Toros, we will moderate the session and assist you with any questions you may have. We invite you to actively engage in this session by asking your questions and sharing your thoughts. Please post your questions in the chat and make sure to ask complete questions and give that context. This will help Thomas, our expert for today, to provide the answers. Now I would like to share quickly what our information on our series, to give you an overview of what was and what will be. Give me a second to share my screen. Here we go. So, with this series, we have set up 6 episodes on all major elements of BTP. And today we have the 3rd episode. We already had one providing an overview of SAP BTP, showing how to maximize the business potential with this platform. Last week, we had an overview on SAP BTP's AI vision and strategy. And next week, we will have a session on SAP's integration suite. On March 14, one on demystifying SAP's data and analytics solutions. Finalizing and rounding up everything with the last session on March 21st on common concepts and strategic direction. And with this, I would like to hand over to my colleague, Toros.
Thank you, Tania. Welcome, everyone. My name is Toros Aledjian. I'm so glad that you guys can join us today. Can you move to, yeah, great. I just wanted to let you guys know some of the other webinars and events that we're currently planning. On February the 20th, we have a session in the APJ, Asia Pacific time zone friendly, boost operational efficiency with SAP AI Business Services. If you're interested, we already did the North American and European friendly time zone session, and it's already available. So if you're interested in that, just send me an email and I'll send you the link for the recording. On February the 21st, we will have SAP BTP, Ask Me Anything on Artificial Intelligence. On March the 4th, Unleashing the Power of Event-Driven Integration with Advanced Event Mesh. On March the 13th, Innovate with Impact, SAP App House and Gen AI for Customer Success. That's a live tech talk with SAP. On March the 21st, in collaboration with our partner NTT Data, how streamline collaboration and delivery efficiencies with SAP Build Process Automation. And then finally, our 2nd edition on April the 10th, What's New in SAP DataSphere in 2024. And for those who are in the US or in the Palo Alto or Miami regions on March 12th, 13, and 19 and 20, we will have an all-day, 2-day event, excuse me, a 2-day event, the SAP BTP Champion Days, Creating the Future Ready Enterprise. Next slides, Tania. Also, for those who are interested in joining us in our numerous forums, our Screen Personas, the SAP BTP Garage, the SAP Fiori BTP practitioners, and the newly created SAP Build, please do join us. I'll put the links to those in the chat as we move forward. And with that, I'd like to introduce our speaker, my colleague Thomas Volmering, VP Head of Product Management for SAP BTP Application Development, Automation, and Integration. Thomas has more than 20 years of experience in different roles in product management for integration, workflow, and business process management, as well as business applications such as SAP ERP materials management and supplier relationship management. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Thomas to take us away.
Thank you, Toros. Thank you, Tania. BTP Unveiled, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be live on YouTube, and yeah, let's kick it off. So before we come to the question how to optimize application development and automation with BTP, I want to start with basically the question, what is clean core and why does it matter? And, what is the relationship to application development, of course, and automation, and to a certain degree, of course, integration. My colleague will, in the next kind of BTP Unveiled session, focus on integration, and I will focus today on application development and automation. And the question is, okay, what is clean core? When we talk at SAP about clean core, first and foremost, it's, a concept to ensure that we are delivering together with, our customers, a modern, flexible, and cloud-ready ERP and make it useful. So cloud or clean core is an approach where the core system of the application remains as standard and as untouched as possible. And you will see what I mean with that later onwards. Of course, the value proposition is that extensions, so anything that you as a customer or you as a partner for a customer extend, or you're building custom functionalities, can be developed on stack and side by side on SAP BTP. And with the clean core, keeping the core clean, right? Upgrades are easier. You have less manual effort for testing and adapting existing structures. So that means you can, with a clean core and with that approach, you can be more agile. You reduce fundamentally efforts on extensions, and we all know what it means. Yeah, if you have in the past created a lot of, Z tables, Z objects, user exits, and so on, over time this piles up and upgrading becomes harder. So reduce effort on extensions, reduce, of course, also the TCO, the total cost of ownership, and you can be faster in leveraging innovations, be efficient. And we talk about efficiency later onwards. It's not only about developer efficiency, but also, together with IT and business IT infusion teams, while, you secure operations and basically you have a secure and efficient operational environment in which you are developing these extensions. Now, when I say on stack and side by side, what does that mean? And we all know, and hopefully we all know, that there is like, a set of fantastic tools in S/4HANA that are called key user or that are there for key user extensibility. Right? Next to the ABAP development tools, you have key user extensibility tools to adopt new user interfaces, create custom analytics, expose data, create forms and email templates, or add specifically application logic. And, you might want to add even, database fields and objects to the application. And there, it makes a lot of sense to do that on stack. And there, of course, you have also developer extensibility tools on stack for the tasks that you want to do in ABAP directly on the system. For side-by-side extensibility, we can basically use, I do not want to have an update now. You can use secure, connectivity to APIs to basically extend the user interface or build some rules that you want to use in workflow extensions, or end-to-end process automations based on events. Or you basically want to replicate data and make it possible to basically build a full stack application on BTP. And here are the use cases for side-by-side extensions. That means, with a clear core approach, you have external access. You can shield the backend system because, you have curated APIs. Come back to that in a minute. This is very helpful and useful, of course, for years now for high-scale integration scenarios, and we all know that. Yeah, you want to integrate SAP to non-SAP systems in high volume scenarios. Native extended mobile applications can be built side by side, and of course, all of this together, in process automation scenarios with an event-driven architecture. So something happens in the S4 system, a business object event happens, so there is a state change of, for instance, a sales order. You want to basically trigger a process, or you want to connect, with an application, a mobile application or full stack application to APIs, and you want to be informed if you have created now a new document in the backend system. Something happens to that document in the backend system. You want to be informed, so that's event-driven architecture. And then, of course, multiple backends in hub scenarios, multi-tenancy partner applications that are built. This is all kind of what you should look at as side-by-side extensibility scenarios for BTP. Now, all of this is clean in this concept because we keep the core clean with curated APIs, and you have a lot of potential there to look at security, secure operations, and governance across actually what you're building as extension. And the classic extensibility, which is what I just mentioned, you write code and you create like custom tables and so on and so forth. That's not really clean, because we need to look at the cost of development there also on a long run, right? Now, when I talked about this concept and APIs, I mean, what do I mean with it? Think about, well, you have curated APIs, you have curated business events that are basically, allow listed from SAP, which is basically saying if you use these APIs, this is exactly where you can and should look at extending the core application with, if you look at the extension of a business entity, like I said, you want to extend, for instance, an order, a sales order, business object, business logic extensions that you provide additional logic, custom specific logic to that order. API composition. So also, if you want to build on these APIs and build new custom APIs, right, for specific extensions that you can then use in web and mobile applications, or even in cross-application processes and automations. And of course, the business technology platform offers you an ABAP environment on BTP and a non-ABAP environment. And I will focus today a little bit more, of course, on this here. And through the course of the next month, we will also show you what are the tool bridges between the ABAP development environment and the non-ABAP development environment in BTP. So these are the fundamental basics, so to say, very high level, of course. Why is a clean core, or keeping the core clean, important, and what is the concept and how you basically can use it? So simplification of extension development with SAP Build is, of course, something that you should be aware of. That, and I will show you in a couple of minutes also what I'm talking about. We have launched SAP Build a year ago at TechEd. Last year at TechEd, we launched SAP Build Code. So as an evolution of SAP Build as such, to allow for enterprise-grade extensions, and for you as a customer and as a partner with an accelerated time to market approach, because you can deliver simply extensions faster, more securely, and rapidly, and in a collaborative approach. Talking about collaborative approach, everybody talks about fusion development. What does it mean, right? It means that in multidisciplinary teams, developers, key users, business experts, sometimes customers even have this function and they call it business IT. So people who are in a line of business, but they are IT savvy. And, of course, these key users and business experts like to work and should work together with developers. And this is what is meant with fusion teams, one unified teams with shared outcomes. And of course, also the difference between, low code and pro code is blurring. And, whenever I meet a customer and ask them, how are you working? How are your developers working with the line of business? It's also clear that what I usually say, even developers are human beings, and human beings like simple tools to get the job done and to master complex problems. They don't like to use complex tools and they can only manage simple problems with it. So, any kind of role, any kind of persona involved in these shared teams or in these unified teams are basically using the right tool to get the job done. And, for years and even decades, actually, we have been using drag and drop tools, for instance, to create workflows. And you could argue and say this has always been a no-code approach, building a workflow, because you have a drag and drop approach. Well, of course, also that's not completely true, because you could say, well, even in a workflow like 20 years ago in an ABAP system, in an R3 system, you would basically need it to extend the business logic maybe for the workflow, specifically for some custom logic. And this was, done in coding. And nowadays you have different means to do that. And this is what I want to demonstrate to you. So without further ado, I would like to move over and show you a couple of things here. And of course that was true. So I have to log on with the name of my dear colleague Achana here in the system. And I want to start in showing you two scenarios. One is, I'm working as a finance expert in my department, and I have a work zone. Here, this work zone advanced, is a business site that can be created, that can be easily adjusted to say, I want to build different widgets here. I want to add widgets, for instance, adding a specific card, adding, for instance, a wizard. And you can create these business sites for the needs of your line of business employees. I'm not doing that here. And here, someone in the finance or finance department actually has a couple of applications available, for instance, to manage vendor invoices, to have document-centric approval requests, if you, for instance, have a specific document, to create journal entry postings, and also a very simple small app that helps you to upload a paper-based invoice. And to show you that what I mean with these paper-based documents, of course, we are all aware, for instance, an invoice can come in that form here, right? You get basically a paper-based invoice. It is sent electronically, so it's a PDF. Or you basically have a template in your line of business where people can maintain journal entry data in a spreadsheet. So this is, of course, still extremely common. So what we can do here is the first thing, using that simple application here to upload an invoice. So I'm using exactly that invoice that I've shown you here, submit the invoice. And I get a little toast message, your invoice has been created successfully. And the second process that I want to start is a journal entry posting. And without that spreadsheet, this is, and by the way, I will show you later on what this is actually a UI5 application that has been built, by a professional developer, and it can be used in SAP Build to trigger a process. Or you can build, with Build Apps, a simple form or a simple application UI. And the first thing that you've seen was built actually with Build Apps. I will show you that in a bit. Now you can go and say here, I want to create a journal entry request. Or you can basically say, well, I can upload as well here the spreadsheet. And this upload of, and let me show you also that this is not a trick. So, I've been filling up actually here the information into that UI. I submit the thing. And now if I go back here, let me check what has happened. So go very quickly to the SAP Task Center. And the SAP Task Center, for those of you who have never seen it, is basically the central unified inbox across all SAP applications. We've just configured it for your build process automation, but you can, of course, have all of the line, line of business applications like Concur or Fieldglass or S/4HANA and so on, so that you have one central inbox and one task center in there. And here, what I've created, I basically created an invoice request from SAP Build from a process automation project that I will show you also in a couple of minutes. And now, and as well, I have created actually here, a journal entry. I'm switching very quickly here to my inbox because the task center is just pulling this information. It might take 2 minutes or so. Here, these are the requests that I have done here. Let's see. So the approval for the or review and approve journal entry. But let's at first look at the invoice verification. So the first step in the process is I have to verify in my role in finance. And you see that in this process, I see that there's a validation checklist. So let's now take a look at how has this been built before I just verify it and say I approve. Let me look at SAP Build. So SAP Build, here is the lobby. In the lobby, you basically can create applications. You can create automated processes or build your business sites like WorkZone Advanced that you have seen. WorkZone Standard is like a simplified version of WorkZone Advanced, formerly known as the Fiori Launchpad. So here is basically where you would build this, and you can navigate directly here then from the lobby in SAP Build. So that's kind of the central design and control center for all your projects in application development or automation. And now, the first thing that I've shown you was the form, that this simple kind of UI where you could basically upload the invoice. Let me go and show you that. So here, and I have done some changes. Here you have this you have a drag and drop tool, and I've just simply, in a couple of minutes, you can create that and basically say here, if this submit invoice button is there, there's a logic behind it that says, we trigger actually an approval workflow. And that's a matter of, a couple of minutes where you basically say here, this is, the definition ID of the workflow that you want to trigger. And this is the location where, the invoice that I upload will be stored. And that's basically it. Yeah, this is a very, very simple thing here that has been built. Of course, you can do more comprehensive things in build apps as well. Now, the process as such, if I go and show you the process, and here, by the way, if you have not seen the lobby, you see all the projects. You have, of course, have also an overview of monitoring or control tower. I will come back to that later. Also to the notion of actions, how you integrate with an S4 system or with any other kind of integration service that is provided here in SAP Build. And here you see in your project list actually that this process has been deployed many times. You can basically assign also or manage the members of that project and add more people to that. And with specific roles and authorizations like developer, administrator, or viewer, these kind of things. And if I go into the project for this invoice approval, you basically see that there are a lot of artifacts in there. So we're using an automation to extract the invoice data from the PDF. And then we have a couple of business rules, and we have a couple of forms. And one form you have seen actually for the approval. And then the process as such looks like this. Let me zoom in a little bit. So this is SAP Build Process Automation. So the process has been triggered actually with the upload of the invoice. And then we have an automation, and that, out of actually the application UI to trigger, we have the data flow, and we're basically reading here then from the file location this document, and then the automation extracts the data with something that we call as document information extraction, which is an AI service that is embedded in build process automation. And that information extraction basically extracts the data from the PDF. We convert currency text, we create invoice variables, and for each line item, we have a loop over this here, and then we basically push this data back into the process. And the next step in the process is then to, in parallel, determine the reviewers. So that I get this as a reviewer is basically a business rule. I'm not showing you that. It's quite straightforward. It's just a decision table. It says, okay, if this is that line of business or that kind of context, then the approver group is this one. Here, this is more fascinating. So saying, getting invoice exceptions. So we have some validations that are created here where you basically say, okay, when this process is triggered, please apply these validation rules. And we have 6 validation rules. And remember, if I go back here to the inbox, you see here these kind of validation checklist status. Okay, well, that comes from, the execution of that rule, which is pretty cool because that's also, of course, some business logic here. So what do these rules do? Validation rule 1 is a simple text rule that basically says, if the purchase order is correctly mentioned, does it include the invoice PO number, right? The second is then a text rule that looks at invoice gross amount matching with purchase order. So these are validation rules, and you can basically come up with or define very simple text rules here, and then orchestrate them one after the other, right? And trigger basically when this process step is reached in the process, trigger the execution of this orchestration of these rules. This is what has been happening, right? And now the next step is the invoice verification form. And you see that always in the process, there is a data flow. So you can bind lists like we did here, or you have single items where you do the mapping from one step to the other. So I'm here currently at that step. And then, after the I review, I verify the invoice, it still needs to go through approval, or there is a condition that says, under a specific condition, which means the invoice amount is less than 10,000 euros and the purchase organization contains 10, or you can have multiple all or any conditions in there as well to decide if approval is necessary, which is also pretty straightforward. Then you basically determine again the authorized approvers for the final step. And let me just quickly do that here in the inbox again, and then we're good to go. So I say verified, okay. And now if I refresh here, you see now I say approve invoice for payment. That's the final step. I can say, okay, and I approve. So now if we go back, sorry, I have to go back here, into SAP Build, into the monitoring section, you will see that I've created a couple of instances already today to, pray to the demo gods. Let me look at actually here the status completed. And then you will see that this is the one that I just created. And you basically can see that, the log of what has happened. So extract invoice data was started. This is the bot. We have basically validated the, I did not mention that we have an action that connects to the backend system to get the purchase order ID. I forgot that even to mention. There is an action in the process that basically calls the S4 backend system, gets the purchase ID for the invoice if it's not there. This we have done as well. So then the reviewer approval has been done. And here, finally, at the end, we have basically really created the invoice in the S4 backend system successfully. So this is a pretty straightforward thing that we have been doing. Now, the second thing is journal entry approval, and I will not completely, this is also quite simple. What I will show you is here that I approve it, and then the process will continue. So if I go here to the review journal entry, this was the UI5 UI that was uploading a spreadsheet. I can also go here and then review. Of course, here there's no attachment, but I can review the data in there. I go there and then say, because it's a must field, I approve, and then the process basically is done already. But just to demonstrate you also how powerful underneath this has been built. So you see here, this journal entry has a couple of action groups. So, as well, it has a couple of automations, it has decision tables and forms, and then here the process. And the process as such has also been built, in a couple of hours, I would say. Yeah, it's something that you of course have to discuss then with the line of business and say, okay, how does this process run? Are there any kind of custom variables that we need to add to the process context as such? Else, we just use basically the journal entry from the spreadsheet. The trigger of the process is through an API. The UI basically triggers the process. Then we have two automations that basically prepare the document. And then we have the approval of, or determine the approval with the business rule. And then basically you have, what you can build there is pretty comprehensive. You can say, okay, you want to have email notifications. You want to include sub-processes. If you want to modularize your process architecture and so on and so forth, right? Just mentioning it because I said, we used UI5. Of course, if I go in here and basically go into the approval step, you will see that, well, you can build this with your own forms editor, or you use basically a UI5 UI. Yeah, because if you say a simple form is not, fulfilling the requirements of the business, and you have it already as a UI5 component, then, and this is also a really good Fusion development case, if you go into the overview here, you can import a form and basically say, okay, what is the UI5 manifest JSON file? And, and then basically you can use it in the process. And that is, of course, something that we will improve from the user experience, that before you basically upload it and use it as not only as a trigger, but also as a task UI, that you basically have a preview. But this is already, possible today in Fusion development. No? Okay, so then I wanted to show you actions. I said, hey, we're looking, and let me go back here to this where it was, the invoice approval in the process as such. I said, I am going to use, or I have been using actually an action to get the purchase order ID. And that is basically calling a destination variable, that destination, BTP destinations, that this is like, a destination variable that you can create here and say, basically, this is the logical destination, and we can give it any name. And then upon deployment, you basically map this to the physical BTP destination, so that in the studio, you can basically say, okay, this is my logical destination is S/4HANA for purchase orders. This is how we have called it. Yeah, you can call it any name. And then basically, if the business expert goes into building the process, they can choose basically here what is the destination variable that IT has given them. And then adding basically, how do you add new actions? Well, you hit on action, and here's a library of actions where the business process expert or key user or developer can basically say, I want to use that action to create a new sales order in S/4HANA. But how do they end up in the library? This is, of course, also the guardrails of IT, because there is an action editor. And in this action editor, you can go and say, let us choose an API source. The easiest thing is, you connect to the Business Accelerator Hub from SAP. And in the Business Accelerator Hub, you have all the APIs from S/4HANA, for instance, for for procurement. And then, this is, there are a lot of kind of APIs that are published already there. So it looked up in live in the Business Accelerator Hub, and then you can look for whatever procurement here. And then, you click on this, and then you create basically an action. I will not do that. I will show you an action live. For instance, here, purchase requisition header approval and release. So this is then how the action editor looks like. So here you can configure the action, not the API. So you basically look at the API specification from your backend system. And then basically you can say, well, this is the input, this is the output, and you can configure this to your needs and say, I don't need all of these fields. I just need, the requisition item and the requisition limit. And this is also what I expect as a response. And the good thing is, of course, before you publish this to the library so that the business IT or key users can use that, you can test it. So you can select any of your destinations and then basically provide a test value and test if that works and if that actually is exactly what you want. So we have a test preview here and so on and so forth. That's the benefit of basically configuring these actions to your needs. Good. Last thing that I want to quickly highlight is, of course, I was just showing, journal entry, it's a big process, it was easy. Well, of course, we have been working with customers and partners as well to say, are there common process problems that you basically face today? And we have been building this with the complete outside-in approach, and we have done this in the past already with task automation, so that customers said, we need an Excel SDK, we need a PDF SDK, and so on and so forth. So here are SDKs, but also business templates where you have bot automations as content, and you can basically say, I want to add this to my project and use it. But that's not everything. We have started to create also, and currently I think there are 98, so close to 100 end-to-end business process templates, including forms, process, business rules, automations, everything that I've shown you before. And let's take a look at the opposite of basically journal entry is mass clearing or clearing of general ledger. So saying, the opposite, there are unused general ledgers and open supplier items that you want to clear. And here is a process package, and you see it includes more than 44 artifacts in the store. And you simply go and say you want to create that from this template. And if you hit the button, it will take something like 60 seconds, 58 seconds. In demos, when I give it to customers, I basically say, okay, this is like end in 10, 9, 8, 7, and usually I'm right. But it takes just a couple of seconds to create that project now in SAP Build directly. And when it's done, it will open actually, the project for me so that I can continue to work in this. So here you go. And now you can, go and change the process, go and change also the automations, everything that you want, and make it your own. And something like this, journal entry clearing process, we from SAP ship you this content already for free, right? For free is, of course, it means you need to have the SAP Build license to use it. If you ask yourself, well, how can I use this? Or how can I, not use it? I've shown you how you can use it. How can I discover these content packages? You can simply go here to the Business Accelerator Hub. So here in the Business Accelerator Hub, public domain, what you see here is all kinds of APIs, all kinds of events, business object interfaces, bodies, and so on, and integration and SAP Build content and everything that I've mentioned before is here as well. And you can also do the same, like you want to filter for instance, only business processes. Live processes are ready-to-use workflow templates, yeah. But business process packages are these kind of comprehensive things that I've shown you. And here you have the list of all of that, and then you can go there and say, let me explore this, and say, I want to understand what's underneath, yeah. And that's it. Here is where you can find this content. Good. Okay. Next stage in what I want to show you today is basically that and I'm struggling a little bit with the Zoom. Okay. Yeah. Go here and say, okay, so let us now take a look at build code. So I've been, talking about build, and in the same lobby now, it's a different kind of tendency to see different projects. In the same lobby, you will have access now to build code as well. And that is, and we'll have that question later onwards. So is build code already generally available? We're just, in just a couple of weeks in front of releasing it. So it's planned to be released in a month. And then what you see is that you can build full stack applications here. So you can basically say, I want to create a full stack application, give this thing a name, and as I have done it before, sorry, I'm still struggling with this Zoom thing here. I'm canceling it because I've been creating this a little bit beforehand, so that we're faster. And what I want to build is basically a customer loyalty application. And that is a very simple application where you can basically manage your customers, their purchases, and redemption points. And what does it mean? If I go now into the application that I've been building already with SAP Build code, to log on to this again, okay, just 1 second. I can show you a specific customer. Yeah, so here, let's go, for instance, for John Smith. And you see that John Smith has this customer number, and there's a total purchase of 11,000 euros. There are no reward points because, 1,100 reward points. So per 1,000 purchase value, you get 100 reward points. So a tenth of it is calculated, and all the rewards have been redeemed already. And how does that work? So let's buy something. It's always fun to buy something in the simple application. I'm going now to create a new purchase and say 1,000. And I look for John Smith as a customer. And I select not the low-level toilet, but this one here. I'm creating it. And now if I go back here to the customer, you see that there are now, total purchase value has increased, and I have 100 reward points. And let's now go and say, I want to redeem it. And say, I want to redeem 400. What do I expect? I expect an error because I have only 100. And yes, you have not enough reward points for redemption. And if I say 100, wonderful, then it's done. So, and now I can go and show you again here. Total reward points are gone. So how has this been built? Okay. I knew this would happen. No, let's give it a minute. I've created actually an empty project. And I want to show you something really exciting. So at first, what I will do is basically I will create a data model for this application that you have seen with CAP, with Cloud Application Programming. Then I will basically take a look at some sample data, test data, and enrich that sample data that you have just seen. Yeah, and then I will create actually some business logic, changes to the business logic to basically look at how is this computation, so how did this computation happen, yeah? You say this redemption number and, you know, whatever. And then I will create the value help, so all of the data of the products, this value help, how is this basically been built? And I will show you how to build this UI application. So at first, let's start with, this is, you know, an empty project. It has been created, and you see here in the storyboard that we have data models, services, UI applications, and external sources. And I will use Joule. Let's use Joule and create actually the data model. So that you do not need to watch me typing. I'm basically copying here this text. And I'm saying, design a customer loyalty program application, define 3 data entities, customers, purchases, and redemptions. By the way, everybody who has done demos with GPT, you know, while GPT is thinking, you can slowly read, but this was very fast. So each customer must have the following fields, and so on and so forth. All fields for each customer should be integer, except name and email, and so on and so forth. Redemption must have 1 field. So I'm just typing, okay, I'm accepting this. And when I'm accepting this, so the whole kind of the data model and services are created automatically. Isn't that fantastic? Now, the next step that I'm doing is basically taking a look at the sample data. So automatically, CAP has created, you know, sample data here. And I will just simply say, I'm going to add 5 rows. And I want to enhance this kind of sample data. So let me go here and say, I want to copy this for the demo and use Joule to change that logic or that sample data, not the logic. So enhance my sample data with meaningful data. Any phone numbers must be 10 digits. All customer numbers must be 7 digits. And 1 customer must use the customer number, you know, that you have seen before in my demo of the application already. That's John Smith. No fields may be empty. Total purchase value must be smaller than 10,000 and unround. Total reward points and total redeemed reward points both must be unround and different and always sum to 1/10 of the total purchase value for each customer. So it's a nice, you know, natural language description of what I want to do here. And, you know, Joule is thinking, and it will take a couple of seconds, and then it should be ready. Take a sip of water. Yeah, okay, good. So I've updated your sample data according to your requirements. Please note that the customer number, total purchase value, and so on and so forth. Okay, I'm saying I want to accept that. And you see here is the number. We have changed that. Wonderful. I can do the same now for purchases and redemptions. On the fast track here to demonstrate to you, I will not do that. The next thing is I want to, you know, change the or add the business logic. So for that purpose, I'm going here into the graphical modeler for the services. And the first thing that I want to look at is purchases. So I click on this here and say add logic. And I say apply logic to service entity purchase logic. Okay. And there should be a standard event. You know, it should happen. This event should happen in the application when it is created. And I say open code editor, and again, Joule shows up, and I basically add this customer logic here. So what is the logic? Reward points of each purchase will be the 1/10 of the purchase value. Each purchase value will be added to the total purchase value of the related customer. So this is what we have seen also in the demo. Yeah, each reward points will be added to the total reward points of the related customer. So, and here's now the code that I'm generating for that, and that makes me, a complete non-developer, feel like, hey, I'm proud, I'm a developer. Yeah, but of course you can argue, hey, a developer would like to type this, but think about it. Well, you just create, this as an entry, as an accelerator for your coding project, and then you can work on top of that. Now let's go back and say, here I'll need the redemption logic. So let's go to the redemption and do the same here. Sorry. Click, add logic. And I say, okay, I want this to the redemption logic. Same is true like before, open code editor. And this is now really smart, because I'm saying with a very simple sentence, deduct the redemption amount. So that's the business logic underneath. And what it does is, and that might take some seconds longer, yeah, because we are deducting the redemption amount from the customer's total reward points and add that to his total redeem points. So that business logic will be just now translated into coding. And of course, you can think about that while we're working also with, generative AI to also create business rules and build process models automatically with Joule, UI generation with Joule, and so on and so forth. That is fantastic, because you're kind of like accelerating your development projects across low code and pro code fundamentally. So here, okay, this is done. I click the button again, and the code has been injected and infused, and I'm really ready now. So now the next thing, the last thing that I want to show you is basically, and let's close Joule here. I want to add an external source and see, of course, you can go and say, let's explore again the SAP Business Accelerator. So what is offered, from SAP S/4HANA, or do I have, as a developer, already connected SAP systems, and we have that for the demo, and I'm just using here S4 product. I'm adding this to CAP. I'm not going through all the details, but you will just very quickly see how I'm going to use it. And when I'm adding the S4 system, the next thing that I need to do is add another entity to the services, to the logic here, to the business logic. Now let me go and open this in the graphical modeler, add the entity. I can drop it anywhere here. We'll say, and then say, I'm using the product basic text as a value help later onwards, and this is why I need it. And then, ta-dam. This is done. I'm going back here to the storyboard, and you see that this is now connected. And now I can start actually really creating my UI application. And because I do not want to build the whole thing here, I will show you how it looks like in the final thing, because I have to do it 3 times. So these tiles that you have seen, we'll call it manage purchases. And data source is here. This custom loyalty service. Okay, should be good. All right, let me just. I'm still struggling with this, with this Zoom. Need to figure out how I can hide the Zoom thing. Okay, because the next button was not visible for me. Okay, so next is I want to use the application, or choose the application type. So I want to use a template-based approach. And, for that, I'm not going to just use a simple Fiori Elements application with like a form with data entry, but also a list report. And then, I can basically say, okay, this is purchases, so I relate it actually here to the data model and then finish it. And that basically will create or will generate really now the UI component, the Fiori Elements UI. And of course, then you can go and annotate it and so on and so forth. I'm not showing you now because we don't have the time how I do this for all of the three, but this is the last step. So, and the most important thing, because if you remember, we've changed the business logic. The only thing that I've changed here, and now I'm switching to the project that I've deployed, is on the object page, I'm going to the central information or general information. I'm looking at the fields in there, and I've deleted everything, the redemption logic, because we have implemented it actually in CAP as a business logic in the services. And I have added here in product that we're using the value help. Yeah. And value help, then I need to basically configure, and here I've configured it here to the S4 service for the product basic text, and that's it. That is basically, and then when you're ready, you can go to your task explorer and basically say you want to deploy this whole thing. This is how fast you now, with SAP Build Code, and of course, including Joule there. I have not been typing or writing code, but including Joule here, creating that kind of simple application. And notice, of course, also when I'm actually, deploying that application, also OData APIs are created from CAP. So I can use this, business logic as well in a fusion development approach in SAP Build, because I can explore it then, through the action editor and make this model usable actually also in the process, or I can use it in build apps as well. Yeah, so there are kind of like fusion team development kind of tool bridges here and reuse possible. Okay, that's the demo part. I hope you enjoyed that. I've shown most of the time now here. This is a summary. You have seen build and build code today. Next time you will have a deep dive on integration suite. As a summary, build has a low code part for visual programming. You have seen actually this very small application that was built with build apps. You can build mobile applications there with the drag and drop simplicity, build process automation for workflows and automations for end-to-end process automation projects, build work zone for the access to the applications and business sites. And here is basically what I think is really super impressive, how far we have gotten already. And there will be, of course, next steps as well when we are releasing it, and continuous investment there on the build code side. And I will not read this out, but this is what you have seen. And of course, there are, and this is the final slide, there are, best practices. So use cloud application programming model. This is a fantastic now next to the ABAP-based RAP model. You have like cloud application programming that you can see there. What in my demo already. For UI development, you can use Fiori Elements like I've shown you, or SAP UI5 or UI5 Web Components. Build code also includes not only the Business Application Studio and CAP and Fiori Elements UI5 and UI5 Web Components, but also mobile services. So mobile SDK for iOS and Android. I've not shown that today. And also document management and, safe and secure runtime services that run on BTP. That's basically what you have, seen today. Good. I kind of got a little bit excited with my hands-on part. I hope we still have a couple of minutes for questions.
Great. Thank you so much for your awesome presentation. We had quite a few questions in the chat, but Maria was awesome and basically already answered all questions in the chat. But working with the user groups, of course, we get a lot of questions. And I would like to take the opportunity while maybe our attendees still could think of questions. So I have been asked how the integration really enhances the efficiency and effectiveness of app development and automation. Can you perhaps outline that a little bit?
Of course. I mean, look, we are focusing with our customers on projects to help them achieve a cleaner core and improve extensibility. Integration is a key to adopting and adapting systems to in a unique landscape, because customers have SAP, non-SAP, and not everything is pre-packaged. So we are leveraging our platform to address API gaps. So you can build your own APIs, you can manage them, you can basically have your access to all of the APIs from SAP, plus also what we should not forget, integration flows. So if you want to say, well, I want to use an integration flow to connect with different kind of integration patterns and qualities of services to multiple backend systems, for instance, it's not 1:1, then you can use an integration flow in a process. You can use it also from an application. So integration as such is kind of like the fundamental integration layer between applications, business applications, automated processes and extensions, and you can use APIs, events, and integration flows for that.
Great, thank you so much. We're nearly on top of the hour, but there have been quite a few questions on SAP build code, as you can imagine. Can you perhaps elaborate on the specific benefits or features that make build code such a groundbreaking tool for us?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm of course very excited about the AI-based code generation with Joule. I think this is really fantastic, right? I mean, this is build code is a front runner there, and you will see much more to come on AI. And I think the presentation on BTP unveiled, the last one has basically focused on that as well. I will not repeat it, but build code is predominantly, optimized for Java and JavaScript development. It is a turnkey development environment, for coding, for testing, for integrations, application lifecycle management. I think that is something that, and with a user experience, and I personally love a lot this kind of approach where you basically are guided. So you have actually a guided experience in building your applications. Then there is with build code, we try to minimize actually the effort and the need for developers to switch between different kind of disparate tools and platforms. We're consolidating, or we have consolidated various development tasks within a single environment that you saw. And I have just shown a glimpse of it. There's, of course, CI/CD, there is testing and, all of that. Plus, maybe the final point is, build code supports a wide range of technologies nowadays. It includes, like you've seen, CAP. It includes SAP UI5, Fiori Elements, mobile services, and this in a very consistent kind of experience for the developers, with also, the tool bridges to the low-code environment of SAP build, right? And that, I think, is a really good value proposition for SAP developers.
Great. Thank you so much, Thomas. We are already over the top of the hour. So I would like to thank you so much, Thomas, for your excellent presentation. People,
thank you, Tania.
I see from the chat really enjoyed it very much. And of course, a big and heartfelt thank you for the attendees for joining. I hope you had a valuable time. And if we did not manage to answer any questions, please contact us. Our contact addresses are in the chat. And so with this, I would like to wish everyone a great day, a great evening, depending on where you are. And then Toros, any words, Thomas, any final words?
No, thank you for having me. And I hope it was entertaining and interesting for the audience. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.